reminds me also as a teacher. It just brings me to a greater level of consciousness that my kids are all over as far as learning styles go, and it's always a good idea to take a fresh look at maybe different material, instead of revisiting the same way. The project reminds me to keep that in mind as I plan other activities in my room.
Storytelling component also, not just the play, took a lot of factual history and put it into a story and brought it to life and gave the kids, they were much more emotionally attached to the material. It had greater meaning and they understood it better because of that, which I thought was very helpful because it's a difficult concept and it's a tough concept.
Grasp those concepts when Dafna's flying all around the room and the kids don't know where to look first because you're so involved in it yourself that you've just got them mesmerized that their eyes are following you around the entire cafeteria and they're in the moment like you are. And it really grasps their attention a lot more.
And when you stop to have the kids act out certain pieces, the first day no one would act those pieces out, but after that they were waiting for you to do that piece again because they had the courage to do it, because they knew what the expectations were. So they jumped right in, and you had almost all of them do it, which was very nice.
When you saw the two kids that we had chosen from our class, being we're an inclusion class, and you have students that rarely have an opportunity to shine because they struggle so much in the classroom. When you're able to be part of a program like this, it puts away the academic part of the reading and the constant writing, where they get into the play, they're more willing to take a risk and try the part. And two of our kids were in the finale, and I was so proud of them. They really did a super job.
What this project does, besides giving the kids ownership of the concepts behind the lessons, their different learning styles can also be addressed because there's more movement, because my visual learners can see what's happening more, and my more dramatic kinesthetic kids want to be the one that wraps in the blanket or that pretends to be water or what have you. They're just much more engaged.
Being in a dual language setting. So I have students that really struggle and don't like to read at all. And I found that they were grabbing that play and reading it, which was phenomenal since it's like pulling teeth to get them to read things. So it was really nice to see them take that, jump in and get involved in that sense.
Sure. There was a 4th grade student basically functioning on a 2nd grade level, who was a very depressed child, has a lot of issues going on in her life. She had the biggest smile on her face doing this whole project. And the role of being girl child, using her babyish voice and being accepted for that, what a difference in the whole demeanor when she knew she was going to be part of this activity.
Speech. And so they're reluctant to speak out in class due to whatever speech problem that they have. But to be able to be a dog, or to be the water, or to be a rock covered by material, or to raise their hands in the classroom and act like a tree. I saw them really get into the play being that type of an object or an animal in the play, and they just had a blast to see their faces shine when they're normally very quiet and they have the look, please don't call on me, I don't want to talk. They're involved, and it was really, really good to see.
We did a role play on top of that, the after your story, like what did they think happened, and they actually made up lines. Some of my very theatrical young ladies did it separately on their own time during recess. It wasn't actually an assignment of mine. They were role-playing during recess, and they were role-playing from your story. They were building off like their own scene from it, because they were just very caught up in the story and wanted to know what was going to happen next, so they made up their own version.
The kids working together to help each other to pull it together, I think, is extremely important. Especially now in our schools, because our kids come from all types of different situations and homes and advantages and disadvantages, and anytime we can encourage them to work together to pull it off, we help them lots. Besides helping ourselves, it's much easier to run a peaceful class if you've established that type of camaraderie and working together attitude.
Play, it's about slavery, but the overarching theme beyond that is it's about justice and about how people treat each other. And when I've crafted the story, I'm thinking about empathy and justice in the way in which I tell it. and the way in which the play is written. And I'm wondering, I mean, I feel like the kids get that, so I'm wondering if you see a difference in their empathy and willingness to help each other and the camaraderie. Does it change? Or draw it out more, or just shine a light on
I
it?
think slavery is so horrendous, and how can you treat anyone this way, and why did people do that, and why didn't they just run away? But then it lends itself to compare it to even just bullying or judging people, prejudices, racism, things that go on now that don't seem as drastic as slavery, but are built on the same premise. And then they kind of like, well, they find that shocking because they think they could never behave that way. And then they discover that they do sometimes behave that way, or those behaviors are around them and are something to be aware of, and how can they change that? And I think that's important because learning from past mistakes to not continue in the future is important. So I like that it brings itself into a lot of other conversations that you can get into with them.
And not a year passes when at least one student, if not more, says to me, but Mrs. Stein, is there still slavery? Says it to either me or one of you. I usually say, well, what do we think slavery is? Realize that slavery might just not mean the kind of slavery they're learning about, but how people treat each other. If they make that connection in any small way, I mean, they're only 9 or 10, but if they make it, I think it's so powerful. I think they take it with them. They take it inside.